This is a little bit different video than the type of video you're used to seeing from me. I had this idea to walk the property with the owner of the property and just have them talk about the history of the property, what's on the property. This is a really cool 19.24 acre homestead, and it's out in Marshfield, Missouri. For privacy purposes, I'm not showing her face in this video, so all you're going to see is the land. It's literally me just holding a camera, walking with her, and having her talk about the land, talk about what's on the land, the history of it, just different stuff about the property itself. It's just such a unique piece that I thought this would be a really good way to get that information out there. So check this out and let me know what you think.
That's part of what makes it so beautiful, right? Because then nature can live here. You know, we come out the door at night and there's bunnies running away because they hear us coming. Yeah. So they'll come tearing across the yard and run into the trees. We have a couple of groundhogs that love it here and have big, huge holes and live it out here. But we've got fruit trees galore, everything from cherries to apricots to plums to peaches to nectarines. We've got berries coming out our ears, including blackberry that grows wild, but also some planted and raspberries planted. Something we discovered this year that's come back through since our sheep are gone, is that where we plant the nectarine trees, there's also asparagus growing. We put a bed in there, and our sheep got caught in the net that lambs would get caught in the net that we were trying to build up, and our ram tore it down. So the net, yeah. And so we put the net back up, and sure enough, the asparagus are coming back. So nice. There's a nice bed of asparagus. It's just starting to recuperate from being dormant for a couple of years because of the sheep, because they loved it for some reason in there. There's one peach tree here that survived, cherry, one didn't. And so it needs a partner for pollination. This last winter killed things that shouldn't have died, but that 2-day frost that we got, that deep frost, killed off a bunch of stuff that was starting to come back. And so there's a few things that are going to have to be repaired. Elderberry will produce enough for a family easily. There's 4 or 5 bushes and they produce amazing amounts. I sell it because I make so much. This is a pawpaw. And there's 2 more that haven't leafed out yet. Again, it needs a pollinator. They like shade more than they do sun, so it needs to, a pawpaw is a native plant, and there's quite a few native plants on the property, but this is one of the few fruit trees that's native. And that one's about 4 years old. It's hard to get them to leaf out. They love shade, so we let the grass grow up around them to get them started and just leave the grass around them, and then they'll finally nurture up. But this one, it was so wet, we wanted to open them up and dry some stuff up. There is native persimmons, American persimmons. There's a big grove of them up on the hill by the other pond, and we'll walk to part of that. But we also have a couple in the orchard of native American persimmons too, which we'll start to produce if the weather allows. Unfortunately, the frost will kill them off sometimes. But black walnuts everywhere. Somebody loves black walnuts. There's tons of black walnut, and we cut them all down and they came all back, so they don't die easy. Yeah. So this is where the black raspberry and blackberries are, or red raspberry and blackberries are, and there's a few of them, but it's hard to keep them cultivating because the deer love them, so you have to really be on top of it. Yep. And then of course the wild blackberries, and then wild roses. This is a wild rose, and they're everywhere. They'll climb trees. It's crazy. I've never seen it in my life. This is, I think we showed it to you before, but this is that spring runoff that we've talked about. And water will run from this side down through here and into it. And then this water comes both from the pond up high and then where we were by where the rooster was. Thing is this is not our spring water. This has nothing to do with our spring water. It's extra water. So if you want to make a pond, create a water system, is wild mint. And it has the most amazing fragrance. Oh, wow. And makes great tea. You can make mojitos out of it if you're inclined. But it's got a wonderful fragrance to it. Yeah, it does. And is one of the native things that are here and just part of this land. And then that's watercress in the stream here. And again, this is wild. It runs consistently because it runs out of our spring, and this spring comes out of the hillside. It has nothing to do with the water that is running around it, except for the water that runs away.
So this comes out of the hillside.
It comes out of this hillside, and it underground. It has nothing to do with all of that. This never stops. That does. So.
And what did you say this is over here?
This here is watercress,
Okay.
and then the cattails are in the pond over here, and both of them are wild. They're edible. You have to clean them because they get the water that's untreated on them. You have to just put them in a water bath of hydrogen peroxide, just mostly water, but hydrogen peroxide, and then you can eat them.
So
People.
What are those good for?
People use them for salad, but they also use them as it's an antioxidant, so it's like spinach.
Okay.
Yeah, but the roots of the cattails is very edible, and then those kind of native things a lot of people who are looking for land like this are looking for. Unfortunately, these bushes that are here are the August olive, and they're one of the trees that people drives them crazy because you can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
Autumn olive is what it is, not August. Autumn olive.
Tell me about this barn over here.
So that's an old chicken barn / it does have a spot where an animal could come in too. So I did learn that they used to have ponies, horses, and this is one of the areas that would have been fenced and allowed them to roam. There used to be an old barn up on the hill too, and these things are full of historical things. I can't tell you the amount of things we found in the land and on this, but that's an old chicken barn, and it has nesting boxes in it and everything still. We had hoped to use it, but it's just too far away for us to protect. And the other thing that happens right here is coyotes will walk up this valley. A pack of them will walk up this valley, and I've seen them here, but you'll hear them all come howling, crying up the valley. And because of the dogs alerting me and me coming out with a flashlight, they'll only stay here and then they'll go off somewhere. They won't come up towards the house. Although we did have a couple of scouts circling for several days our sheep when we had lambs. I'm trying to get in, but with Snowball out there, they couldn't get close enough, so we didn't have to worry about it. But they do come up this alley, so we couldn't put something over here that was vulnerable. There was a small fox family that lived in there for a while, a couple years after we moved here, and we got to watch them feed out here. That was the most amazing thing. But the dad got killed by the coyotes one night, so Mama had to finish raising them.
Are these blackberries?
These are blackberries, yeah. We transferred them. We had them up on another spot, and we transferred them here because we had more water over here. There was these beautiful alpine flowers in here. They're called Star of Bethlehem, and they're just gorgeous, but they're a spring flower. And then the violets are another spring flower that are here that people covet. There's a lot of nature people that like the native parts of Missouri who are making them into their yards, the wild violets. And so they're just full of these big leaves. This time of year you can't see it, but there's a lot of daffodils and tulips and stuff like here, and this yard fills up with them. So the first flower that comes up is these beautiful daffodils that have just been here from the farm.
This is just kind of a wet weather runoff here.
This is the spring runoff from this side, yep, that we walked by down there. And until we don't get rain again in the summer, this will keep running. Yeah. It can get to roaring. You can hear it from the house sometimes if you get a big heavy rain. One of the things that it's gone rampant here because it was left wild is poison ivy. And so if you keep it cut, you can keep the poison ivy down. But if you let it grow up and ignore something for a while, then you have to fight it back again. Yeah. And this year, for whatever reason, the poison ivy is coming out super strong. Yeah. Yeah. It's coming out super strong this year and really trying to find its way back in. But as long as I keep my trails cut, I can keep it at bay. So this was standing and looked solid when we first bought the property 13, 14 years ago. And but there was no water running. We'd been in a drought. Yeah. And when it started raining, it poured and the water ran around it constantly. I don't know how this house didn't have problems years ago. I don't know what he did to keep it dry because the water would run under the house and fill up the cellar. Oh, wow. But they lived in it for decades, but because we haven't been in there at all. And it was already having problems when we bought it. So these trails are designed just for walking and getting out, but it's also where you really get to see the beauty of the farm. And hickory is one of the big trees that are really growing up, and when they open up in the spring, it looks like they're blooming, and it's just the neatest thing to watch. And all around you'll see these little blooms coming out of the top of the branches from the hickory. Right now there's not a ton of wildflower, but there is black-eyed Susans, a black-eyed Susan bush. It sets up, I don't remember the exact name of it. Daisies, I mean the milkweed, all kinds of amazing flowers. And these trails are just lined with color all summer long. I've never measured how long there are, but I always have kind of guesstimated there's over a mile of trails wandering around.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of trails through there.
The autumn olive produces a berry that you can eat. Sassafras can be used to make sodas and different things. They're everywhere too. The black walnut produces nuts that can feed you, and there's acres of black walnuts.
Oh yeah.
The black raspberry right now seems to be a little, sad, but there is black raspberry on the property. The blackberries you can pick every year. Only last year was the first year we didn't get a harvest, and we went from rain to heat, and they were blooming when it happened. And because it didn't get any more rain, they didn't produce. But it's the first time in 15 years. There's great fields, lots of land for cattle or animals of any sort, and they have fencing that just needs to be pulled back tight. It's solid fencing, but it just needs to be pulled in.
Is there anything planted back here?
Nope. No, it was cattle. It was wild, and then it got cut down, and we ran cattle in there. But it's been a few years since we had cattle in there. So there's a tree over on the fence line over there. That's the original peach tree. It's a white peach, and we took 2 of those trees and planted them in the garden. So one of the trees left over there is a white peach from the farm. And I would be surprised if there wasn't more over there that could be picked up. These oak trees are so beautiful to me. When they're clustered together like this, they look so small, but these are the ones that can be massive given a chance. This is sumac. It's everywhere, and it can get huge. Some people say it's poisonous, but I've never had any issues with it. But it's everywhere. There's areas where it's massive, but right now in here, there's a vine growing on everything, and so it kills a lot of it. So this is where you're going to see, in here where it's protected, you're going to see tons of wildflowers. This whole area just grows up like crazy, and it'll be full of black-eyed Susans and daisies and all kinds of beautiful things. But it also has, and it's nurturing it itself because of the weather, it also has gooseberries, wild gooseberries. And this is what they look like. And they're everywhere, even on the roadside. And as you can see, every once in a while they'll put on fruit. And I don't know if somebody could nurture these. I haven't done the research. I've only just discovered them. I haven't done the research to find out if somebody could nurture them and get them to produce gooseberries. Yeah. But they definitely are interested in it. They're trying to reproduce. So, and they're, like I said, they're everywhere. Big, huge locust trees. And like that one, see the big, huge one back there? Oh, yeah. That's a ginormous locust. But this is the locust. And up by the orchard in the area where the tires are, we took a locust down, and we have to cut it by hand up there. I forgot about it. And there's 2 of them. This is a butternut tree. It's young still, so it's not producing. But it will produce walnut type fruit, and that's edible. We planted them because of that. And it is a native. This is really cool. And he said that his grandpa used to farm this valley right here. Really? And it's always been overgrown since we moved here. Not quite this bad, but since we moved here. And I realized something. That pond, if that pond is nurtured right, will fill up to a certain level, and then it'll seep under the ground. And that would make this a naturally watered area from the upper pond. And it just occurred to me when I was talking to Katie when we were doing this walk, it dawned on me, like, wait a minute, that's why he did it here. And that's why he built that pond, was so that this could be, because he put that in, and there's a spring that feeds it, and it has a natural runoff. It never fills up. It has a natural runoff, and it'll water this whole area. And you can see it after a rain. You can feel it coming through.
Yeah.
So this is a neat area that he figured out was a good way to have a natural garden without having to do a lot of work. So this pond is struggling. It needs to be resealed if you want it to not seep, or you just need to reinforce the wall if you want it to continue to seep down. But it's fuller than it was. The rain is filling it up. The drought was also part of the attack on it. And so it just needs some nurturing. But I mean, we've used it to water, and we would use it at this level even. We would still be able to pull enough water out of it because it has a spring feeding it. We would be able to water with it. This is the only large grove of sassafras, but this is what sassafras looks like mature. And there's a lot of fun uses for it if somebody's inclined to just using what's around. And then the American persimmons are in the trees at the back, and then up in that grove up on the other side. This is American persimmons as well. That's why we left them. Yeah. So they look horrible, but there's strawberries all in here and in here, and there's wild strawberries. They're not wild. These are domestic. And these ones are hardy. They lived through everything that happened this winter, the rain and the horrible cold. They were already starting to grow back when we got the deep frost, and they stayed. So, whereas these ones were coming back, we had lots. Your wife and I looked through it. There was several coming up, and it looks like that bad cold frost killed them all. Oh, nope, there's a few coming up in this one, in the back there, by itself. So those ones all you have to do is take a stem, one of the stems that come off, and put them in here, and they'll grow. So that's how I ended up with 2 tires, is we just broke a bunch off and divided them out. So this is full of allium, and we'll clean it up when we're going through this. This one we had milkweed in, but something killed it off, so there's nothing in it right now. But these are a really cool lily. See these? And I'm going to put some in the garden up front. Where did it go? I have a sign. So these are a really beautiful lily, and we will put some up in the garden. The lily of the valley is a shade loving, so I'm going to put some in the cedar trees where that water runoff is, where the rooster was. Yep. I'm going to put a couple down there. It's amazing what this shade house will do. Let's walk in there. The shade house creates a 50% blockage of UV blockage, so you can use it to grow out hot on one side, but then you go to the north side and it's cooler, because then they're getting a distant shade, and a blockage, so they stay cooler. So you can grow out just about anything in here and get it to where it's ready. So seedlings do wonderful in here and naturally get watered without being pounded, because the shade house breaks it up so they don't get pounded. It's pretty amazing what you can do in this shade house. And we used it as a nursery for people to walk into, so they could come in and buy what they wanted, and it protected their plants until they got them in the ground. So this garden area is amazing, and yes, it's full of weeds, but it's weeds you can turn in and just nurture the ground. A lot of them are just nitrogen supplements for the soil. They're just protecting the soil from erosion, is all these weeds are doing. And so this garden area is amazing. If you're going to do a fence like this, make sure you stabilize it, because the deer occasionally will just jump right over it and tear it down. So, but this has worked out really well, and the soil is great. And we have added to it. We've added some depth to it to give it a little bit of texture. Tomatoes don't love heat. It's the tomatoes on here. They get shaded from these bigger trees in parts of the day, and it actually helps them grow. It supports them. So this has been a good place to do tomatoes, cucumbers, all kinds of stuff. I know that the cattle panel are just recycled from stuff we got on the farm. A lot of it is. But, if you're going to inherit something, you might as well use it, right? This is our hickory grove, I call it. But all these hickories were little when we moved here 10 years ago. They were all like this, just tiny little things. We've had turkeys run through here on a regular basis. Deer, I mean, there's a herd of 5 right now that it's rampant through here. But they also love our fruit trees, so it drives us crazy. They'll nibble on them. But these are 2 apricot right here. These hydrangeas will bloom out. There's heritage roses, but see, the deer have been nibbling on them, especially this one. They love. Yeah, they are. At least they're staying strong enough to keep blooming. This is something got killed by that deep frost. It was lemongrass, but it's been killed, so I'll get it out of there. That's cat mint, it's called, and it blooms out purple, and it is the most beautiful bush when it gets filled out. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and it should start blooming in the next month. It's a willow. It's what they call a willow bush, and it'll turn more and more pink. So it's beautiful when it goes. This is a hydrangea. We thought we lost this, but this is Russian sage, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Another purple bloom when it comes out, and it just started growing, so it'll be a little while. But all our roses. Oh, this rose you should look at. Vince will have to tell you the name of it. But this is a heritage rose. It blooms out red, and it creates hyssop. I mean rose. What are they called? Rose hips. Rose hips. And so you can actually harvest them at the end of the season and use them for teas, and they're really good for you. I use them in my elderberry syrup.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. 19.24 acre homestead out in Marshfield, Missouri. Really cool piece of property. I just wanted to make this video to kind of show you the uniqueness of it. Like I said, she had a lot of really great information there. So if you're interested in seeing this property, give me a call, 417-340-1444. Be happy to show it to you. We'll catch you guys next time.